Post-trade deadline edition, Ask LOJ. All the important questions you have about the Utah Jazz and the trade deadline, and it's coming up next on Locked on Jazz. Ba-dum-bum-bum.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps as well as on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button. That helps us out a great deal. Subscribe, hit the bell button. And if you're listening on a podcast, 5-star reviews are appreciated. Just follow the show. To the everydayers out there, thank you so much. And for all you say hi to me at the games, love it, appreciate it. Got 3 people over in Phoenix who said hi. A lot of Jazz fans out there. All right. So let's go through all of the deals and the Ask LOJ today. What's coming up on the show? Great questions. Why didn't the Jazz try to get better? Why aren't the Jazz trying to make a run to make the playoffs? Could have the Jazz kept Simone and Kelly? Why did the Jazz move on from Ochai? What to expect from Taylor? Who benefits the most? Will we see Bryce Sensabaugh? How will the Jazz be for the rest of the season? Is this really all we could get for those guys? All right, so the 2 trades, in case you've missed it. The Jazz acquired Kira Lewis Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and a future first-round draft pick for the Toronto Raptors in exchange for Ochai Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk. Kira Lewis was a former first-round pick, little small point guard, hasn't really ever gotten a chance. Jazz might kick the tires on him just to see what's going on. Otto Porter, I don't know if he'll come or be a buyout at 30 years old. I'm not certain. He has not played a lot in the last 2 years. The Jazz acquired Kevin Knox, a second-round pick, the rights to Gabriela Procida for Simone Fontechhio. Don't know anything about Procida, but actually have heard some positive things recently. Second-round pick's really what the Jazz got here. Kevin Knox has bounced around from New York, Portland, and Detroit and not had a lot of success. He has improved his two-point shooting a great deal. I guess the Jazz could kick the tires on that one, but it seems like those tires have been kicked. So we'll see whether Knox has, and he's a free agent at the end of the year. He plays the same position as Taylor Hendricks. And Lucas Olynyk. I can't really imagine that he comes here and takes their minutes away from them. So really, what the Jazz acquired is a first-round draft pick for Ochai Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk. And they acquired a second-round draft pick for Simone Fontechhio. So let's get to your first Ask LOJ question. Why didn't the Utah Jazz get better at the trade deadline and try to make the playoffs? So I'll be honest, I expected we would have seen 2 different types of deals here at the trade deadline. I thought there was a real chance we would see both of these deals take place, where the Jazz both moved Simone Fontechhio and Kelly Olynyk and maybe Ochai Agbaji. I'd been hearing that a little bit. And at the same time, got better. That they traded those guys, got maybe a pick for them. Could have, Jordan was another name that was mentioned, but at the same time brought somebody back in a deal. There weren't really those guys that were moved that did that. So Gordon Hayward, for a lot of contract, was one who went to Oklahoma City, and if he can get that leg right, all the injuries have been on the same side, they probably got better. PJ Washington moved, so that could have been a possibility for the Jazz if PJ Washington was someone that they wanted to acquire, and they thought that was going to get a lot better. The Charlotte took back some contract, and maybe the Jazz didn't want to do that. But PJ Washington, but on the other end, like PJ Washington is a 6'7", 230-pound kind of not sure what, who's shooting 32% from 3. Like that's not like he's a career 36% three-point shooter, but this year's been a little sketchy, and last year was 35%. So I think there's some still question marks on PJ Washington, and Dallas gave up a first-round pick for him. So that's pretty pricey. The real moves, if you're going to get better, were the Jazz willing to empty up their coffers for Pascal Siakam and get him to re-sign? The 3 first-round picks that Indiana traded earlier this year. Could have the Jazz done anything similar to RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley for Toronto for OG Anunoby? And again, you have to be the one team that does it. But, those are really when you look at the trade deadline, the players that moved that could have been in the Jazz ballywick are PJ Washington, who I just kind of broke down. OG Anunoby, really strong, good wing player, would have been pretty neat next to Lowry. Did we have a package that could have been the same as RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley? And then Pascal Siakam, and could have we made a deal that would have had give up, some of our picks to get Pascal Siakam, but you got to make sure he's going to resign because he's a free agent at the end of the season. So I'm not sure that the market yielded great opportunity for the Jazz to do that. From what I'd understood, I expected them to do that. I think that was the effort, was to play a dual path here on the trade deadline, one that got them to get better and the other that was to increase their asset evolution on guys that they likely weren't going to bring back next year. And they did that. They just didn't get the other path going. So could have the Jazz, why didn't the Jazz? I think that was the effort. I don't think the market yielded it. And so you end up trading 3 of your 10 rotation players and ending up with a first-round draft pick, late first-round draft pick, early second-round draft pick in this upcoming draft, where you really were not a participant at that moment. Could the Jazz have kept Simone Fontechhio and Kelly Olynyk for the future? So, gosh, I'll be honest. This is like the one where I love both those guys. I like their games. And you kind of think you wish they could have. So let's walk through it. And this was obviously a decision where I think the Jazz decided that they couldn't have. So the one thing on Simone is the minute Detroit is calling for him, and Detroit has $47 million of cap space, you realize there's a really good chance that Simone is going to get a high-level restricted free agent offer from the Detroit Pistons. And while the Jazz will have cap space also, if Detroit really wants him, you may realize you're not going to match that deal. And if you know, in all likelihood, here on February 8th at the time, or February 7th, that you're not going to match that deal, then you probably should move Simone and get something for him. If Simone's interesting, like I think Simone would be really, really good on a good team. And so had the Jazz been able to sign Simone for a 4-year, such and such $1 million deal that was reasonable and the right number, I would have been all for it. I think he would be a nice starter until some guys get better, and then he's a terrific bench player, shoots it well enough. And that's a great credit to Simone, because as of this time last year, we did not know if he was an NBA player. And frankly, when the year started, we did not know if he's an NBA rotation player. So it's a super credit to Simone. It's also a credit to the Jazz organization for helping develop that. And yes, that's the decision that you had to make, is whether or not you thought you could re-sign him. And so I'm guessing at the moment in which they have the deal that Detroit's hovering, they kind of realize they're not going to. Kelly's the one that, like, every instinct in the world to me says you should keep Kelly. He's a great leader. He's got a great attitude. He loves to play the game. He brings energy every day. He might enjoy being an NBA player more than anyone I've ever been around. He's less bothered by the noise than anyone I've been around. So there's all these reasons why his veteran leadership and everything else would be really, really important. The problem is, I don't know how he plays for us. Taylor Hendricks was the 9th pick of the NBA draft last year. And Taylor Hendricks has a tremendous upside and needs to play. Like, this is part of our process. Our process is not trying to get to be the 9th pick or the 9th team in the Western Conference. Danny and Justin and Ryan have been really clear. The goal is to try to win a championship. And part of that would be having your 9th pick of an NBA draft develop into a player. So he's got to play at some point. Kelly was the one standing in front of Taylor Hendricks playing. And Kelly at this moment is better than Taylor Hendricks. So you can't just bench Kelly in a free agent year and say, well, Taylor Hendricks is playing because we drafted him, and keep a locker room together. It doesn't work that way. So you actually, and then furthermore, if we're talking about keeping Kelly for the future, Kelly is, if Kelly comes back and you re-sign Kelly for all the litany of reasons I just gave you, that he's the best, he's got to play. Well, if you have John Collins and you have Walker Kessler and you have Lowry Markkanen and you have Kelly Olynyk, Taylor Hendricks never plays. Now, eventually, maybe one day Taylor Hendricks is the 3, but it's not now. And so you need Taylor Hendricks to play. You need Taylor Hendricks to play so he can make the 4 plays he made last night and the 12 mistakes he made last night. And so, yes, I would have loved to have Kelly Olynyk back, and I would have, Simone would have been the easier of the two. You decide you're signing him, that there's a market value, you believe you can sign him, and that the number's right, and you're going to sign him in the offseason. You have the rights to him. He's restricted. Nobody else is going to match. You're not going to match. He's not going to get something that's too outlandish, and you keep Simone for the next 4 years. That one, That was a decision. That one, Kelly, unfortunately, I think the road ended on February 8th. There really wasn't a great role for him on this roster where the Jazz franchise is after yesterday. There just wasn't. And so now Taylor Hendricks plays. All right, we'll continue. Great questions. You guys have done a great job. Why did the Jazz move on from Ochai, and what do you expect from Taylor Hendricks here in this upcoming rest of the season? We'll touch on those things as we're just getting started here on Locked On Jazz. Friday edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by our friends over at Murdoch Hyundai. The Murdochs have been in Utah for over 80 years, and the Hyundai lineup of cars just fabulous. We've purchased 2 Santa Fe's, have the Ioniq 5, so I'm not just making stuff up. I've backed it up and have been super pleased with everything we have done with both the Murdochs and Hyundai. The Hyundai lineup starts with a little Kona SUV, gets all the way up to the gorgeous Palisade. The Elantra and the Sonata are the sedans. For the dollar, the money you can get for that car, all the bells, all the whistles, everything you get, the safety features, in my book, it's a no-brainer. And then you add the Murdoch's customer service. Check it out. 4646 South State Street, or in Logan or Linden. Please email me first so that we can take care of you and get you a VIP experience as you deserve over at Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is also brought to you by eBay. It's time to make you win your fantasy league. That's right. With eBay and Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball, we combine for your eBay guaranteed fantasy picks of the week. Here's how it works. Josh Lloyd has the #1 fantasy basketball show in the country. eBay has the guaranteed fit for your caller. So who are the guaranteed fits after the trade deadline for you in your fantasy team? Asur Thompson, the Pistons overhauled their roster, and we only hope that Monty Williams will bump Asur back into a larger role. Marvin Bagley III is Washington's likely center after Daniel Gafford was traded. So look at him. Taylor Hendricks, says Josh Lloyd. The top 10 pick could find a larger role. Cody Martin, maintaining health permitting, could find himself in a stronger role. Charlotte with Gordon Hayward gone. And Benedict Mathurin increases his role in Indiana now that Buddy Hield is out. That's all from Josh Lloyd, Locked On Fantasy Basketball. It's all brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Want to make sure you have the guaranteed fit on your fantasy team, as well as your guaranteed fit on your ride or die. Make sure your ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. With eBay Motors guaranteed fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Get your eBay ride or die at ebaymotors.com. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items alone. Exclusions do apply. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Locked On Sports Today is the first ever national 24/7 sports channel. It's up on YouTube. It's now also available for you on Amazon Fire TV. Search Locked On Sports Today. Let's get back to your Ask LOJ edition questions here. Why did the Jazz move on from Ochai Agbaji? So this is really the biggest decision the Jazz made yesterday in the trade deadline, and probably the one that's most controversial. The Jazz decided that a late first-round pick in the 2024 draft is a better prospect than Ochai Agbaji at this point. Okay, that's a big statement. Now, Ochai has been in a pretty horrendous shooting slump. Like he played 51 games, and if you take his last 26, he shot 25% from three in those. He was playing 18 minutes a night, averaging 4 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, not having a very big impact on games. The shooting slump was actually more severe if you take it over the last 19 games. He was shooting 30% from the floor, 19% from three, 3 points a game in 17 minutes, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. I think the concern on Ochai was threefold. One, the lack of other stuff. Like he wasn't rebounding, assisting, going to the free throw line. I mean, he had not taken a single free throw in any of his last 8 games. It's like something like 8 times, like 120 minutes or something. He had not taken a free throw. He also just was getting, an assist and a rebound. Like there just were too many 13 minutes, no rebounds, no assists, no steals, no points nights. 20 minutes, no points, 4 rebounds, no assists. 13 minutes, 3 points, 1 rebound, no assist. There wasn't any force from Ochai that was saying in his second year here in the league at 23 years old, that I'm about to demand 30 minutes a game. That didn't seem to be taking place. Defensively, I mean, his body's great. Ochai's going to have a 10-year career. And really the outcome's going to be interesting to see what he does in Toronto. In general, I like teams that get off players early. If you have a guy, you have him in your house, you've given him a summer league to try to become your man, you have all these things with them, you need to know. Like, I would argue that we held on to Trey Burke maybe a little longer, and we may have known what Trey Burke's issues were, and that he wasn't, and we could have gotten more for him. We ended up getting nothing for that asset, right? The worst thing could happen is that Ochai suddenly falls out of the rotation. You're playing other guys. He's not playing for the last 30 games of the year. His value is down to very little. And then you move him and don't get anything for him. That's what happened with Trey Burke, is we waited long enough that we then didn't get anything for him. And that was a 14th pick of a draft. That wasn't ours. It was Cleveland's. But we didn't, at least hopefully we got something now for him, got an asset. So I do like that. I think that's an important thing in this league, that teams move their asset while they still have value, or other people intrigued, rather than keep them out there long enough that they remove all doubt of that belief. And I don't know that Ochai would have done that. Ochai's body is so great at 6'5", 215. His personality is so awesome. His who he is as a human, his desire to be right, his teammate, all those aspects of him lead me to believe he's going to have a 12, 13-year NBA career. I just don't know that it's going to be as a 25 to 30 minute a night starter. And the Jazz clearly have decided that they thought that the late first round draft pick, which is going to be super late, it's going to be 28 or 29, the way that's structured, was a better opportunity for the Jazz than Ochai Agbaji. What do you expect from Taylor Hendricks for the rest of the season? Last night might be, I mean, I hope he doesn't go one for whatever he did last night forever, but last night might be what we're expecting out of Taylor Hendricks for a while. So he made 4 plays last night that were like, oh, wow, that's why he's the 9th pick of the draft. Incredible bounce pass to John Collins on a roll. The defensive play where he blocks Kevin Durant on a drive. He hits an outside 3. He has a rebound where he goes up about 3 feet higher than the rest of the crew that's on the floor to make the play. And at the same time, he's minus 13. He goes 1 of 5 shooting. He messed up spacing a multitude of times. He got shook severely by Durant after Durant had to pay him back. Fine. Durant's one of the 5 greatest scorers in the history of the league. He guarded KD last night, which is an incredible experience. So what do you expect from Taylor Hendricks the rest of the season? Played 17 minutes a night. I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't go up to about 22. He grabbed 8 rebounds, which is super. So you want to see that. And he blocked a shot, as we talked about, the KD block, hit a 3, and then he's going to make a multitude of errors. And he's going to make us, we are a better team if Kelly Olynyk was on the floor for the final 30 games of the season than Taylor Hendricks, but we're hopefully a better team in 2018 or 2028, if Taylor Hendricks gets 20 minutes a night here for the next 30 games than if Kelly Olynyk did. And the Jazz have used the G League perfectly on him. He's played his G League games. He's in shape. He's been playing enough. He's been learning. Remember that, like, the difference between Taylor Hendricks and Keyonte George is that Keyonte George breaks into this league and has known since a freshman in high school he was going to be a pro player and has done everything in his life every day. Taylor Hendricks becomes kind of a late big-time recruit, 3rd best player on his high school team, 3rd best player on his AAU team, goes to UCF, and then suddenly midway through UCF realizes, oh my gosh, I'm going to not only be a first-round pick, I'm going to be a top 10 pick. And so I think when you see that, it's just a really different world for him than what you expected, than I think what a lot of these guys got and what they expected. And so Taylor's still learning, and there's just a lot he's got to pick up. And that's why this next 30 games is going to be very valuable for him to get 20 minutes a night. And it's going to be, Will's going to have to manage it and figure it out. I don't know how you use him. I'm not sure coming off the bench and playing with Keyonte and Jordan is actually the best spot for him. Will talks a lot about 48 minutes of basketball, trying to figure out the best way to put it together for 48. There's a minor chance he starts. And you make him play the best players and defend, but also get to play with Chris Dunn, who's a veteran, and get to play with Lauri Markkanen and understand how to do that. I think there's a chance of that. It would probably mean John goes up to the bench, or maybe that Walker goes to the bench and you're not starting one of those two, and I don't know whether that can work. All right, we're going to go rapid fire next. What does Keyonte game George's role change? Will Bryce Sensabaugh get time? What did the Jazz really get was a question. How bad will the Jazz be? Which I changed the way the question is. And who benefits? So we'll just rapid fire this as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Thanks so much for tuning in today and all your great Ask LOJ questions of Locked On Jazz. We'll continue to get those for you as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you in part tonight by Nissan. Nissan with the 2024 Nissan Rogue, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder, and the 2024 Nissan Armada. Nissan, the Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built in. You're always updating your assistant to call on almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. The 2024 Rogue is perfect mid-side crossover for your next adventure. The Pathfinder has room up to 8, extensive cargo capacity, advanced availability, 4x4 capabilities with 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 powers of towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there. And the Armada will change you what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. Tow bigger and explore further in the 2024 Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, the Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Continuing here on a great Ask LOJ edition, let's go rapid fire for you and see what you have coming up for me on these questions. All right. Does this change Keyonte George's role? I think Chris Dunn has earned that starting spot and keeps that starting spot. He's done a wonderful job. I think Keyonte's getting enough experience playing in the second unit and then closing games when possible. The only thing is I think Keyonte's minutes go up. Last night, Will Hardy played a 9-minute rotation. And Taylor horton-tucker was a part of that rotation last night. And I think we're going to see Keyonte suddenly jumping to, he went from 25, 27 to 30 minutes last night. I think we're going to see Keyonte much more at the 30-minute mark the rest of the way. So part of these trades, I think clears about 5 or 6 more minutes a night for Keyonte George. That's a lot if you're not starting. Because if you come in at the 6-minute mark, there's only 4, you can't play the first 6 of either quarter. There's only really 36 eligible minutes to play in that stretch, and he's going to play about 30 of them. So I think you're going to see a lot more Keyonte George. Will Bryce Sensabaugh get time? The Jazz late first-round draft pick who's shown some real passing skills and done some nice things in the G League for the Jazz. He is dealing with a hip issue right now, and that knee is obviously always a problem for him. In 13 games in the G League, Sensabaugh has done some nice things. He's averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists early in the year in their kind of cup stuff. He was really passing it well. He's not shooting it as well as he did in the pro. He's one of the best shooters coming out of the draft. He's just at 32.5%. It'll be interesting to see. There is a chance that, Taylor got that first run at opportunity last night. Sensabaugh was not available. There is a chance the 28th pick of last year's draft, Bryce Sensabaugh, could start to get some of those minutes if Taylor, doesn't figure out how to play in that role. He's kind of bounced between starting and playing the role. The usage rate for Sensabaugh at the G League was nearly 30%. So he's going to have to really change his game in the G League. He was a much higher usage rate even at Ohio State. So that'll be what's interesting. And I think the Jazz are going to want to find out is if he's playing as the 4th or 5th option on the floor, can he make plays? Can he be a space-up shooter and not have to do everything off the bounce, which is so hard in this league? He also, the 5 rebounds a game at 6'5" is super impressive. He's still just 20 years of age. Turned it in October, right when the season started. What did the Jazz really get? Are these picks worth anything? Little sensitive and mad, but good question. So generally 11 through 35 in an NBA draft has the same 50-50 chance of hitting. If I took the metrics for the past, what you would say is the Jazz have 2 shots at getting a rotation player in the NBA. One One of these two should turn out to be a rotation player. And if they get that, and then Simone and Kelly were going to leave, and Ochai, they've decided the other pick was more valuable. They think they've improved their future assets because one of these two picks should turn out to be a rotation player. 1 through 10, it hits at a very high rate. 11 on hits at about 50%. You get a rotation player. Sometimes you get Giannis, sometimes you get Kawhi, sometimes you get Clay, and sometimes you don't. And a lot of times you don't. So that you're getting in the second round, 30 through 35 still seems to really have value and seems to have an increased value as time's gone on. But after 35, it starts to fall off pretty severely. How will the Jazz be on the court the rest of the way? Will it be like last year when they cratered? I don't think it'll be as significant. Last year, really losing Mike Conley and not having a backup point guard option. The Jazz still start Dunn and Sexton. They still start Markkanen. They still have Kessler and Collins. You still have 5 of your better players. You did lose 3 rotation players, and one of the key things that you have done the most as a franchise in won games is because of the fact that you've been playing 240 minutes a night of quality established basketball, and right now you don't have that. And so therefore, I think that's where the team is going to slide off and struggle a little bit, is that Taylor Hendricks is not 240 minutes right now. We'll see if Taylor can find a way to be 240 minutes. We're just going to be a little slimmer in that 240 minutes. I apologize. I'm going to cut the show short. I'm watching Google Maps. I have a plane flight today, and it keeps getting worse. So I'm going to cut the show short and get out. I think I've answered all your questions, but it is a little shorter than usual. And for that, I apologize. We gave you extra content yesterday. Go back and grab those other shows. This has been Locked On Jazz, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national sports channel, Locked On Sports Today.